All right, folks, I've got Tyler Yaremchuk making his What the Futures podcast debut. Tyler, man, how's your morning going?
It is going good. I'm not a farmer, so 9 a.m., that's early for me. You got me out of bed for this.
Well, these commodity markets trade all night, Tyler. So we get going nice and early. We got to read our news by 6 a.m. So we're early birds here, early risers.
Yeah, I get it.
So, Tyler, give the folks a little bit of your background. Like, what do you do? Like, what's your day to day? Where do you work? What's your passion here?
So for me, I started in sports radio when I was only 19 when I started at TSN. I worked at TSN for 4 or 5 years, and then I made the jump to Oilers Nation and the Nation Network, and that's kind of where I've been for the last 4 or 5 years now. Right now, I host a couple of shows on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, I should say. Every day, 10 a.m. Mountain, I'm live on Daily Face-Off with former NHL goaltender Carter Hutton, and we do like a 30-minute news kind of show that just kind of updates people on everything going around the entire league. And then at noon Mountain, I'm live for 90 minutes a day on the Oilers Nation YouTube, and all of this is available as podcasts too. On the Oilers Nation YouTube with Oilers Nation every day, myself, Liam Horrobin. It's just us kind of shooting the shit and doing an Oilers show for 90 minutes. So I do that. A couple of other pods for Oilers Nation Radio, Nation Real Life, stuff like that. And yeah, that's kind of my day to day. Is I'm usually doing anywhere from 3 to 4 shows, articles, all that stuff, just churning out hockey content.
Nice, man. Well, I don't know how you keep it all organized. I have to do one show a week, and that seems to be enough over here. So awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on. I was golfing with Farmer John yesterday, or you know him as Farmer John. My first round of the year, and I'd never golfed in October, right? So we hit up Coal Creek yesterday, and I said Tyler was going to be making his What the Futures debut, and he said, "Can you ask him what he thought about the Trump Carney meeting in the White House this week and how that's going to impact farmers?" So it's a joke. It's a joke for you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know who those two people are, and that is about the end of that. Like you said, how do I keep it organized? My life is just sports. So anything outside of that purview, I always laugh. I'm a very one-dimensional human being.
Awesome. All right, buddy. Well, that's why we got you on. Let's talk some hockey now. So the Oilers season starts today. All right. So let's get into it. I want to know, where were you when you got the McDavid extension announcement, and how did you feel? Like what walk us through those emotions.
Yeah, so I was sitting exactly where I'm sitting right now when I was talking to you, because the news broke at around 10:15. That's right around when we started to get the first trickles of information that, like, hey, this thing is going to get done today. So I was live on the air with DFO Live. So, I mean, you go back and watch the show. I'm kind of I keep looking at my phone. I got a big smirk on my face. Like, I was so relieved to see it finally get done. And then obviously DFO Live ends at 10:30, and it's like, oh shit, I got to get to our office downtown because we're going to start Oilers Nation every day early. Like, as soon as I get there, we're hitting record, go live, and we're rolling. So I was speeding my way to the office, and my phone kept kind of lighting up. And, you look and you see, okay, it's a 2-year deal. That's not all that surprising. And then, I drive a little bit more and Twitter lights up again, and I look, whoa, under $14 million. Like, that's crazy. I thought at the lowest, this thing would be $14 million. And driving a little more, look, under $13 million. And kind of like, am I dreaming this? Like, what is going on right now? So that was kind of how the morning unfolded for me. Just honestly stunned that he took the discount that he did. Like, 2 years was rumored the whole time. But if you would have, put a gun to my head and said, take a guess on what the AAV is, I honestly probably would have said 16.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it as well. I was at home, and I was one of those people. I've been a very emotional fan the last couple of years, and I've said some things that I need to walk back. So, like, my buddies would be laughing if they heard that comment. So I was trying to play it cool, and I'm like, the extension, it'll happen. I'm not worried about it. But when it did happen, I had to just sit down for a moment. I had to just sit down, breathe a little bit. There's like a pressure release valve. Like, it was unbelievable. I went for a little walk just to calm down because I was so excited. So, awesome, man.
No, for me, I was talking to some of the guys about this. Like, I'll be honest, we didn't really hype up the home opener, the season opener, as much as we usually do at Oilers Nation, because I think the McDavid thing was putting a damper on the whole fan base. And, like, for me, I was maybe like 4, 5 out of 10 excited for the season. It was like, all right, it's the start of the year. We all kind of know the playoffs are what matter around here. But now that, like, Connor signed, and then Wallman, you get Ekholm today, and it's like, all right, I'm up to like a 9 out of 10. Like, let's go. Let's
Oh
smoke
yeah.
the Flames.
Oh yeah, I'm pumped for tonight. I am pumped. So, so the Ekholm extension comes out earlier this morning. What do you think about that? I think I saw like 3x4 or something. 3x4
Yeah, I
million.
think it's a really smart piece of business. I'll admit initially, like over the last, month, 2 months here, I've kind of been more in the camp of, all right, he didn't look that good coming back from injury. What we've heard about his injury, or honestly, that might even need to be pluralized. It might have been injuries for Matthias Ekholm. They were pretty serious, and he's 35 years old, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
miles on that body. And do you really want to commit to him before you see him on the ice this year and see that he can truly get back to, not quite the Matthias Ekholm of old, but something close to it? Because in the Cup final, we were talking about taking him out of the lineup. Like, he was barely a serviceable defenseman. So I was initially hesitant to do this, but when you look at that price tag of 3 years, $4 million, I mean, go look at what the LA Kings were paying defensemen this year. He's not getting as much as the Brian Dumoulin's of the world, who's far from a household name. So you do this with Ekholm, and you know what? If you would have bounced back this regular season, he's probably a guy that commands a 3x5, a 3x6. Like, again, look at the way the cap's going up. So to lock him in now at $4 million, even if he's not the Matthias Ekholm of old and he's a good third pairing veteran defenseman who kills penalties, that's the going rate for those guys. So it's a nice bet by the Oilers, because if he bounces back, it's a bargain. If he doesn't, you still paid market value.
I have a soft spot for Ekholm. I have an Ekholm jersey, obviously, but the reason I bought that jersey is we took a little family vacation to Maui after the playoff run 2 years ago, and bumped into Ekholm and his family at the resort we were staying at. So it was trying to get my 3-year-old at the time to make friends with his kids, because she wanted to make friends with everybody at the resort. But the Ekholms, she got shy and turned away. I'm like, out of everybody here, this is who we want to be best friends with.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I mean, his story too, like, he's so easy to like. And when they acquired him, like, a player coming from Nashville to Edmonton maybe wouldn't be all that excited about it, like their family lifestyle wise. But I remember reading the stories that, like, his wife was crying tears of joy, saying, like, our kids are going to get to grow up in a real climate. They're going to get winter now.
Snow.
Like, they truly love Edmonton. They came here that first year at the deadline, and they didn't leave all summer. Like, he had his, I think, third kid in Edmonton. Like, they've embraced being Edmontonians, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. And again, limited experience meeting them, but they were just great to chat with as well in that moment. So cool. All right. Now we do have listeners in Saskatchewan. We have listeners in Manitoba. Kyle Connor, a great little clip by the Winnipeg Jets this morning at the KFC drive-thru. Did you catch that one? Anything come down on what's going on with Kyle Connor?
Yeah, so an 8-year deal, a $12 million AAV. So I'm not great at math, but that's $96 million. And how about this? When the Winnipeg Jets were sold back to Winnipeg from Atlanta, the purchase price was $110 million in 2011. So Kyle Connor's contract value is almost as high as what the Jets sold for a number of years ago, or were sold back to Winnipeg for. I like this from a couple of perspectives. There was this narrative about Edmonton for a long time before they became a cup contender, and there's still the narrative that no one wants to play in Winnipeg. And then you go and look, and it's like, well, Connor Hellebuck signed for the rest of his career in Winnipeg, and Mark Scheifele signed for the rest of his career in Winnipeg, and Neil Pionk signed for probably the rest of his career in Winnipeg, and now so does Kyle Connor. And like three of those guys, I think, are American-born players. So I love it because it can kind of, again, this should have been squashed after Scheifele and Hellebuck, but it can squash the narrative that people don't want to play in Winnipeg. I think maybe guys don't want to go to Winnipeg, but when they go there, they love it and they stay. Yeah. And like, now we can look at 3 legitimate star or superstar level players who have said, I will commit to being here for the rest of my prime, for the rest of my career. So I think that's really cool. I mean, for the fan base in Winnipeg to not have that story lingering over them the entire season. And, if you're in the playoff bubble come deadline time, you don't have to have the conversations of like, oh, do you trade Kyle Connor while you can get something for him? Like, that narrative is just squashed, and they can focus on winning, because I do think they've gone a little under the radar this year from the perspective of they were a 110-point team or close to it last season, and everyone kind of has them falling back to third in the Central, maybe a wild card spot. And now with this kind of cleared up, I think the path is there for them to be, once again, a really good team.
Yeah, and I know for the league it might be better for superstars to move around, but I'm old school. I love seeing those guys stick around, play their careers out. You see Crosby, what he did in Pittsburgh. I like seeing these guys stick around. I know the league probably needs them to move around, but I like seeing it. So, all right, man, this is why you're the professional. This is a great segue. I have my one last one for you. Either do you want to rank the Canadian teams, or do you want to say which Canadian teams do you think will make the playoffs this year? Either or. You decide which way you want to go.
I'll do like a hybrid of both here. I'm just pulling up the standings to make sure I don't miss anything. So the Leafs will still get in. I have no concerns about that. Like losing a 100-point guy in Marner, maybe they don't win the Atlantic, but I think they're in. And they're probably not even a wild card team. They're probably in one of those top 3 spots. I like Montreal. I know a lot of people are kind of picking them to regress. Last year wasn't quite an anomaly, but the goal differential doesn't really line up with where they finished. They had a high shooting percentage. That's usually a sign that things could fall back down. I still like Montreal. I think Demidov is really, really good. I think Dobson is going to be a good addition to that blue line. So I got the Habs getting into Ottawa. I'll put them third out of the Eastern teams and say that they'll be right on the bubble. Again, similar to Montreal. Yep. I wonder if maybe last year just a lot of things didn't go right for them. And like if a New York or someone else is going to get in, like someone's got to fall out. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's Ottawa. So I have them ranked third in the East out of the Canadian teams, a bubble team, we'll call them. Out West, Edmonton's number 1. That's an easy one for me. I think they'll finish higher than Winnipeg in the standings this year, just because again, I think Winnipeg will maybe take a step back, and I also think Winnipeg will lean less on Connor Hellebuck this year and really try to watch his minutes throughout the season. So I'll go Edmonton 1, Winnipeg 2. They're both in the playoffs, and I think that might be it. I think both Calgary and Vancouver will be on the outside looking in. I got Calgary ahead of Vancouver. I hate that Canucks center depth chart. Like it's bad, bad. Goaltending, again, people keep pointing to Demko and being like, oh, well, Thatcher Demko's healthy and ready to go. People forget Kevin Lankinen was amazing for the first half of last season. Like goaltending is absolutely not what caused them to crater last year. It was distractions off the ice and goal scoring. And they traded away JT Miller. So part of you, I guess, could say, well, they got the distraction out. Quentin Hughes' contract situation in his future, that's going to be a distraction. Elias Pettersson, if he's not performing well, that's still a distraction. I just think they're a bit of a mess. So I'll go Vancouver as a clear 4. And I think, once again, it's just Edmonton and Winnipeg getting in the West.
Yeah, I think Montreal's one of those maybe good vibes teams. They got some good vibes around them. And my dad's a big Habs fan, so he'll appreciate you hyping them up a bit. And then, I had Calgary, Vancouver out as well. I know Calgary's going to be feisty with good goaltending, but All right, just to wrap up real quick, this is a wild card. What's your favorite piece of memorabilia that you have? Like, is it a jersey, a hat? Is there anything that stands out? I know you have quite the closet of stuff, but anything stand out as a special piece?
There's a couple of things that I really, really like. I do have, if anyone's like a hockey card junkie, I have a Connor McDavid Young Gun card, and I got it graded, and it's like it's a 9.5. It stays at my parents' house. My dad likes to keep it in his office, and I'm too scared to fight him for it. But that one is probably like the top piece of my collection. Growing up, I was a big Rick Nash fan, so I have a signed Rick Nash jersey on my wall, kind of like right behind my camera that I'm always looking at. So that one too is a good one. My dad got it for me when I was real young as a Christmas present, and then he forgot he got it for me. I think I was like 13. He forgot he got it for me, and I'm cleaning out the basement one day with him, and there's just like a black bag, and I rip it open, and I'm like, holy shit, like this is a signed, like imagine being 13 years old and you're doing a tedious chore, and you're like, this is a signed Rick Nash jersey. And my dad was like, oh shit, that's where I put that. Like that was for Christmas last year. And it's like, damn. So I like the story behind that one too. So those are the two that pop out.
That's awesome. I have a Draisaitl jersey, signed jersey. And this was in the 2017 season, I think. Can't quite remember. But I went to an event with an auction and ended up winning this jersey. It wasn't signed at the time. And the team, like, I don't want to call him the priest, but some spiritual guide with the team. We'll say that. He's like, hey, I'm going to get that signed by Draisaitl, and I'll meet you in a couple of weeks and give it back to you. And I'm like, this is probably not happening. Sure enough, met the spiritual leader person again a few weeks later, signed Draisaitl jersey, and away I went. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Look forward to having you as a guest each and every month throughout the hockey season here. Enjoy the home opener tonight. And how can people get a hold of you? What's your Twitter handle? What's the best spot?
Yeah, Twitter is probably the best spot to hit me at Tyler Yaremchuk. Same thing on Instagram. My DMs are open on both. So if anyone ever has a question or whatever, I'm always more than open to having a conversation. So yeah, Twitter, Instagram, easily the best two spots.
Awesome. Thanks, bud. Take care.